Okay, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Jacob Teacher YouTube channel. My name is Jacob, of course. If this is your first time, welcome. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and to hit the icon that looks like a bell. That way you'll be notified when I go live, when I release new videos. And also, of course, you are free to like, share, and leave a nice comment in the comment section below. If this is your first time, let me know where you're watching from, or if you've seen me before, why don't you introduce yourself again in the chat? Let me know what's going on. Tell me where you're watching from in the world. And yes, it's a pleasure to be back with all of you. Alan is watching with us again. We have Alan. Hello, Alan. Nice to see you again. Sam is back. I'm doing well, Sam, and I hope that you are doing well too. We have Illy, I believe, from Austria. Thanks for stopping in. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. Tonight in Korea, of course, where I am streaming this from. So thank you all so much. I have the chat box open here, and let's get started. From Austria. I just don't know how to pronounce Lee or Illy. From Austria. And Alan says, I'm sure many people don't know about your awesome lessons, Jacob. Well, yes. Ilyas. Okay, Ilyas from Austria. Thank you. And Alan, yes, well, if you want to help me out, you can, of course, share this on Facebook or whatever. Any social media site will do. Social media site. But thank you all for joining me. And let's get started. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about expressing sympathy in English. Expressing sympathy in English, okay? Ilyas has a question before we start. Okay, Ilyas, I'll keep an eye on the question on the chat room, but I'm going to start. You can ask your question and I'll try and answer it as I continue. Okay, so expressing sympathy. For those of you who don't know, sympathy, of course, is when we feel bad, when we feel sad for someone else because of their situation. So if another person is in a difficult situation and we feel pity for them, we feel bad because of their situation, you could say we feel sympathy towards them. For example, if an earthquake happens somewhere in the world, in some city or country, and you feel really bad for the people who are affected by the earthquake. Imagine that homes fall down and there's just a bunch of destruction. You could say, I feel sympathy for the people who are affected by the earthquake. I feel sympathy for people. Who doesn't or who don't? Who doesn't, Ilyas? Or who don't? Well, it depends on the situation, right? It depends what we're using there, okay? You'll have to give me some more context for that question, okay? But moving on. That's what we're talking about today. And in this lesson, I would really like a lot of participation from people. It's going to be more of an open-ended lesson. What I mean by that is I don't have very specific questions for you. I just kind of want to have a free kind of lesson where we talk about different things that we already know and kind of pull them together. If that's a little confusing right now, don't worry, it will become more clear as I talk about sympathy. So this lesson, actually, this topic was requested by one of my followers, one of my subscribers. By the way, if you're new here, make sure to sign up for my mailing list. That's how this person emailed me. He's on my mailing list. And you can do that by downloading the link to my free ebook in the description below. So he asked me to talk about sympathy in English. He actually asked me this question, which I'm going to show you right now. So this is the actual email I received. It said, hi Jacob, could you tell me some good fares, he means phrases of course, using to share the pain or comfort someone in difficult circumstances? So lately I've been kind of correcting some of the messages that I receive from people and translating them into more natural English, and I did the same for this question. So here is how you could rephrase that question to sound a little more natural. You could say, could you tell me some good phrases to use when you want to sympathize with another person? Of course, sympathize is the verb form of sympathy. So when you want to sympathize with another person, it's the act of expressing sympathy. So before we begin, I wanted to tell you a little story. It's a quick story. It happened to my brother. It's about expressing sympathy, or it will be a nice transition into the topic of sympathy. But my brother, he is in medical school. Actually, he just graduated from medical school. So now he's about to begin residency. Residency is the official training before he will become an actual doctor. While he was in medical school, one day he was going around with his classmates and another doctor, and they were going around to different patients and hearing these patients' stories. And he went to one particular patient with his classmates. This patient had cancer, and this cancer was in a very late stage. So this person didn't have a lot of time to live. They were very sick. They didn't have much time to live. And this patient, was telling his story about his life. He was talking about his situation right now and what it was like living while knowing that he didn't have a lot of time to live. And my brother said it was a really emotional story. Everyone in the room was really sad for him. They felt a lot of sympathy for him. It was a very emotional story. So as they were leaving the room, there was one person in my brother's class. Her name, we'll call her Olga. She was Russian, I believe, and her English wasn't perfect. And again, it was a very emotional situation. Everyone was feeling a lot of sympathy for this guy. So as they were all leaving the room, they were saying thank you to this patient. They were wishing him well. And Olga went up to this patient and she said, "I hope you get better. I hope you get better," is what she said. And of course, it was a very kind of inappropriate thing to say because she meant very well. She wanted to express sympathy, but the guy wasn't going to get better. Everyone knew that. He had cancer. He wasn't going to live much longer. So it was not the greatest thing to say. It's kind of a funny story in a dark way, but she said something that was not appropriate for the situation. And so all of this is to say that expressing sympathy when we feel bad for someone, when we pity someone else, when we want to show that we care about another person and that we care about their struggles, it's very difficult to do. It's very difficult. Even for native English speakers, it's very difficult. It can be very awkward and uncomfortable at times. And why is this? Well, I think when we express sympathy, it's almost always because someone is suffering. Someone is suffering, they're going through a difficult time. And we want to help this person, we want to show them that we care, we want to sympathize with them. But a lot of the time, our words, they don't come out right. We say something a little awkward, maybe. And because the situation is so emotional, usually a lot of the time it's quite emotional, it's a very difficult situation, it feels, if we say something a little awkward, it feels really awkward. It feels more uncomfortable. So, and for both people, for the person who is trying to express sympathy and for the person who is suffering. So it's a really difficult thing for native English speakers, and of course, for someone learning English, it's even more difficult because, especially in English, a lot of the time when we want to express sympathy, we say strange things. The actual phrases that we use are quite strange. We will talk about some of them later. But to start, I wanted to ask you a question. Um, just generally speaking, in what situations do we usually express sympathy for someone else? In what situations do we usually express sympathy for someone else? So I mentioned one earlier. I mentioned if there is an earthquake, right? If an earthquake happens and lots of people are affected, that's one situation in which we would most likely express sympathy for the people who are suffering, right? So that's one situation. I want you to tell me other situations in which you would express sympathy for someone. So any situation, this is just a brainstorming activity. Why don't we start with that? Okay, Sadawat says, hi Jacob, difference between sympathy and empathy. That is a great question, Sadawat. Okay, so sympathy is when you feel pity for someone, when you feel sorry for their situation. It's just an emotion where you feel kind of bad for them. Empathy is very similar, but the difference is you kind of share their pain. You understand it more, perhaps because you've experienced that situation yourself. Okay, so maybe for example, if let's imagine you have two guys who are talking, and both of them are going through a divorce, or one of them went through a divorce before, and another one is going through a divorce. They're more able to empathize with each other in a way. They actually feel each other's pain. They understand it more deeply. So sympathy and empathy are really closely related, but with empathy, there's more of this kind of shared experience of the pain, of the difficulty. So I hope that makes sense. Ilyas, who don't believe or who doesn't believe, it really depends on the full sentence. Okay, so you could say people who don't believe in Jesus Christ, and whatever, you could finish the sentence. People who don't believe that. Someone who doesn't believe. So both are okay in different contexts. One is not more right than the other. Alan says, putting yourself in the same situation as someone who is suffering from some difficulties and emotional and physical disorders. Really hard and sometimes impossible to say something that can make him ease. Alan, yeah, I think that's a really good point about why it's awkward sometimes and difficult to express sympathy and empathy, because a lot of the time nothing we say can really change the outcome of this person, right? Of course, we want to show that we care, but it's not going to change anything a lot of the time, right? Okay, so Sadawat says, we usually express sympathy when someone lost their lover. Okay, good. So when someone lost their lover, so a breakup, we could say, when a relationship ends, when the man or the woman or whoever is suffering, we express our sympathy. That's one great example. Sam, you express sympathy when someone has fallen into bad habits. Okay, when someone's fallen into bad habits. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, you could express sympathy when someone has fallen into maybe drug addiction or some kind of bad habit, like you say. Yes, we express sympathy. It's often a good way to approach the problem. Okay, great. So we're going to look at some of the most common ways that we can express sympathy, and like I said, they're quite strange in English. There are many different ways to express sympathy. Obviously, in this lesson, I think my goal is to try and give you just the most basic phrases that you can use, phrases that will work well in any situation for the most part. And I'll try and explain this as we move forward with this lesson. The first one I want to talk about, death, okay? What a fun topic to talk about, death. So, of course, this is something that happens to all of us. This is a part of life, death. So at some point, maybe you're going to be at a funeral in which you'll be required to speak English. Maybe if you're learning English, if you're going to live in an English-speaking country one day, you'll likely attend a funeral at which you'll be required to speak English. Okay. So what is one way that we talk about death? How do we express sympathy towards another person who has just lost someone close to them? A lot of the times in English we say lost when we mean death. So you can say she lost her husband in a car accident, means her husband died in a car accident. He lost his wife to cancer. It means that she died because of cancer. So we use the word lost a lot to talk about death. Now, this is in my opinion, one of the strangest ways that we express sympathy in English. The most common way to do it, the most common phrase that we use is, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for your loss. And it's a very strange way to talk about this, right? Because you're apologizing, but of course you didn't kill the person who died, hopefully not, of course, but you're apologizing to someone for their loss. It's kind of strange, but this is the most common phrase that we use. You could say this to your boss, to someone in a more formal setting. You could also say it to your best friend. So it works in all situations together, kind of. You could say it to anyone, and it's appropriate to say, I'm sorry for your loss. You could change this sentence too quite a bit. You could add in words. Lots of people do. I'm really sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm terribly sorry for your loss. But I'm sorry for your loss is the basic phrase that you can use to express sympathy to someone or for someone in this situation. I also wanted to show you a phrase that you could go a bit farther with. And we use this is something that you could write, for example. This sounds a little bit more formal. It sounds like something you would write in an email to someone who has experienced a loss recently. You could say, I was deeply saddened to hear about blah, 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 passing. Please accept my condolences. Okay, so there are two words that I want to talk about here. Again, passing. To hear about someone's passing. We'll talk about this a little more in a second, but passing means died. So when someone dies, they passed away. Please accept my condolences. Condolences is a very common word that you'll hear in the context of death and loss. Condolences just means sympathy towards someone who has lost someone recently. So again, if your friend's mom dies, for example, say, please accept my condolences. I offer my condolences. And it's a little bit more formal. It's more of a formal way of talking about it. Okay? So another expression, another question. This is what I can't talk today. This is what I was talking about earlier when I mentioned that this was going to be more of a open for discussion lesson. I want to know, just in general, what other English expressions do you know that are related to death or loss? Other English expressions you know that are related to death or loss. If you know some more that you could use to express sympathy towards someone who died. So, for example, like we were talking about, I'm sorry for your loss. If you know any more phrases like that, phrases that express sympathy, feel free to tell me some of those, and I will see if I recognize them. Or just in general, phrases that are related to death or loss. I mentioned earlier about this phrase that I was using, passed away, okay? So I'm just going to write it down on my board here. To pass away. To pass away. To pass away is a great English phrase to know. We use it to talk about death. So when someone passes away, they die. That's what it means. To pass away is to die. You could say, I'm really sorry to hear of John's passing. Again, I'm really sorry to hear of someone's passing. It means I'm really sorry for your loss. I'm sorry to hear that this person died. So it's just another way of expressing sympathy. It's another, it's a phrasal verb here that you'll hear a lot in the context of death. So what other English expressions do you know? I'm just going to check back on the comment section. Kyunga Kim, long time no see. Welcome back to my group. It's a pleasure to have you here. And great, you figured it out. We usually express sympathy when someone dies. So there is, that's what we're talking about now. So you beat me to it. Great. Okay. Have a good day, Jacob. I'll watch the replay later. Sadawat, have a good day. Thank you. Okay. Lustadi says, I do like your lessons. Well, thank you so much. I like having you here. It's a pleasure. He's checked out recently. Okay, Sam, that's a great phrase. Someone who's checked out recently. It's a little more, I'd advise not saying that unless you're speaking to a close friend or someone who you feel really comfortable around. Like if you said that to a boss or in a formal situation, it would sound a little rude. It sounds like you're joking almost sometimes, but checked out, we do use that to mean dead. So if someone checks out, if someone has checked out recently, it means they've died recently. They've passed away recently. Kyunga Kim says, peace in heaven. Yes, I don't know that phrase alone like that. I don't really see it used often, but peace in heaven, maybe in religious context more. I'm not exactly sure. But peace and heaven, of course, go together quite well. Sam says he's expired today morning. So Sam, expired, yes, we use that phrase too. We do use it. To me, it just sounds like a strange phrase to use. But again, I think it's evident how awkward we feel talking about death because just from the language. Like sometimes the language we use is so strange to describe someone dying. He's checked out. He's expired sounds really strange to me, but we do use it, so good job. And you wouldn't say today morning, you would say this morning. Today morning, you wouldn't say this morning. So he expired this morning. He has expired this morning. Okay, he's dead, says Sam. Yeah, you could just very bluntly say he's dead. Alan says sleep in peace. Alan, much more common would be rest in peace. So actually, on a lot of gravestones, you'll see the letters R.I.P. You'll see those letters, and that means rest in peace. So rest, lie down in peace. May his soul rest in peace, says Vicheka. Okay, great. Yes, that's another good one. May his soul rest in peace. So that's something that you would hear at a funeral, probably. Kyunga Kim says someone has logged out. Yeah, I've heard that before. That's a kind of a rare phrase, but I believe I have heard that taught when talking about someone who has died recently. So, yeah, that's a good one. Okay. Alan says, life is unfair, and sometimes we can't stop to lose our dearest in our life cycle. We can't stop to loss. I think what you're saying, Alan, is sometimes we can't take the time to properly grieve. So grieve basically means feel sad about the death of someone. When you grieve, you're feeling sad about that. So I think that's what you're saying, Alan. Maybe, I'm not entirely sure. But this is great. Thank you so much for the participation. Let's keep going here, okay? We're going to move on to a different topic, this is what Sadawat said earlier. Sadawat mentioned that we express sympathy when we are talking about breakups. So a breakup, for those of you who don't know, is the end of a relationship. So when When two people are together romantically and they break up, that phrasal verb, it means that their relationship ends. They break up. Okay? So, again, there are many different ways that you could say this. I'm trying to give you just a few that you could use in many different situations. So you could say, sorry to hear that you and whoever broke up. I hope you're doing okay. So imagine your friend breaks up with someone. I'm sorry to hear that you and Stacy broke up. I hope you're doing okay. Sorry to hear that is a really good expression to know. You can use that actually to express sympathy in many different contexts. Okay, so if someone, I don't know, for example, hurts themselves, if someone gets injured, you could say, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear about your injury. I'm sorry to hear that you got injured. Really, I'm sorry to hear blah 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 something," is great in almost any situation. It's a very basic way of expressing sympathy. So I'd really recommend, if there's anything that you gather from this lesson, that you take away from this lesson, let it be, I'm sorry that, or I'm sorry to hear about blah, blah, blah. Okay? You could also say, I heard you broke up with whoever. I'm sorry that things didn't work out. And I hope you're all right. I'm sorry that you broke up with whoever, or I heard you broke up with whoever. I'm sorry that things didn't work out, and I hope you're all right. I hope that you're not suffering too much. So this you could say to a friend, and of course, if it's a friend, you're probably going to speak a little bit more in detail about the breakup, about how they're feeling, and so on. But again, I wanted to ask you the same question. What other English expressions do you know that are related to ending a relationship or heartbreak and/or heartbreak? Okay, so what other phrases, expressions do you know? Expressions of sympathy or just in general. So there's break up. Um, Here's another great one. If one person breaks up with another person, you could say he or she dumped the other person. Dump means break up with someone. It's more active like that. Actually, here's a funny story. I remember when I was in college a few years ago, and when I thought I was really cool, and when I thought I was a lot smarter. um, yeah, when I was reading literature and being in college and being all cool, and when I was less emotionally intelligent, whenever my close friends would end their relationships with other people, or whenever my brother or sister would break up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, I'd always recite this one poem to them about how the poem was basically about how being alone is not so bad, it's not terrible. But of course, you shouldn't do that. That's a really stupid thing to say to someone who has just broken up with another person or who is experiencing heartbreak. That's a terrible thing to say. And looking back, I can't believe that I actually said all those stupid things. It's a great poem, but when someone is experiencing heartbreak, when they're experiencing these painful emotions, stick with these phrases and talk. Just talk like a normal person would be my advice. Hey, I'm sorry to hear about about the breakup. I'm sorry to hear it happened. I'm sorry things didn't work out. That's a good expression too. Things didn't work out means that the result was not good. So we often say that in English. If things work out, if everything worked out, the result was good. That means if things didn't work out, the result was bad. So we use that phrase quite a bit. Okay. Alan says break off the same as break up. It can be, yeah. So break off we use sometimes differently. Like imagine that you're eating like a chocolate bar, let's say. You can break off a piece of chocolate, But you could also use it in a romantic context too. So you could say she broke it off with him, or he broke it off with her. So we do use that phrasal verb too, Alan. Great question. Workout. Okay, good. Sam asks, what's workout? Great. Let me give you an example. So, yeah, why don't I erase the board here and switch back? I'm glad you asked, Sam, because this is actually a really good expression to know in English. We use this quite often. I use it personally very often. So let me switch back to my other screen here. Great. So you could say, if everything works out. Okay, if everything works out. My printing is just awful, I know. If everything works out. So let's imagine that I'm going to a new city or I'm planning on it. Let's imagine I'm thinking of going somewhere if a certain job opens up. So let's imagine I want to move to this one place, but I need a job there. So you could say, if everything works out, I will be living in this place. It means usually it's dependent on the context. Usually we know what it means from the context. But if everything works out, it means if the result is good. If things don't work out, it means the results are bad. It didn't work out. So if everything works out. You can also say if things work out, if things don't work out. And again, we're just talking about the result of something that is usually pretty clear from the context of the conversation. So I hope that helps. And it's a great English phrase to know. Okay? So Sam says, I feel bad regarding your breakup with. Yes, you could say that. It would sound a little weird. Regarding is kind of a formal word a lot of the time, sometimes. So it depends who you're talking to with a lot of this, again, right? If I was talking to a close friend, say, hey, you could say, I feel really bad about your breakup. I heard you broke up, but that really sucks. You could say that too. That really sucks. So sucks is a slang word. It means really bad, basically. So that really sucks that you broke up. It depends who you're talking to. Okay. Let's see. Alan says, I love to break up with those who always making gossips and play around with people's emotions and never stop to mock. Alan, yes, those people sound like people who you do not want to be dating, so I hope you're not in relationships with those people. But you said I love to break up, so it sounds like you're not. You enjoy breaking up. Okay? Let's keep going. Okay, here we go. The next thing, actually, so this is a new something new that I wanted to try with you. Another situation in which we express sympathy is when talking about career troubles, for example. Okay, so if someone is having a problem at work, if someone wants a job really bad, but they don't get the job, or if someone gets fired from their job, if their boss doesn't like them anymore and they fire them, then we express sympathy for people in those situations. So I have a situation for you. I've made up a situation, and I want you to pretend that you're this person and try and respond in English. So let's read together. Here's the situation. Imagine that your best friend, Lisa, is really excited about a job opportunity. She's already had 2 interviews, and she said the interviews went really well. When something goes really well, it means the result was good. You're out for lunch with her when she receives a phone call. You can hear disappointment in her voice as she speaks. She didn't get the job. What do you say? Okay, so you're out with your best friend Lisa. Lisa is really, really excited about this job. In her mind, she thinks that she's probably going to get hired. She's probably going to get the job. But she gets a phone call. You hear that she's really disappointed and she didn't get the job. And you're her best friend. So what do you say? I'm curious to know. Of course, again, there are many things you can say. And keep in mind, she's your best friend. So you can say many different things to her. You can say things to her that you couldn't say to someone else who you're not as comfortable with. Let's keep that in mind. Ruslan says, hello, teacher. Am I late today? You're a little late, Ruslan, but that's okay. We're talking about sympathy and expressing sympathy in English. So how do you respond to someone who is in a difficult situation when you want to express sympathy? That's what we're talking about today. And by the way, if you're just joining me here, if this is your first time, again, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and all of those things that make me happy. You're free to do it at least. If you enjoy this stuff, it would make me happy. Alan says, dealing with depression after a breakup with someone, always something everyone tries to step up in new ways to forget sadden has happened for him or her. I'm a little confused by that, Alan, but I think what you're saying is when we're dealing with the depression of a breakup, it kind of forces us, or it motivates us to stand up and to try and be a better person, to try new things in life, to try different things. Okay? Maybe that's what you're saying. I'm not exactly sure. But please, in the comment section, tell me, what would you say to your friend Lisa? If this were me, if I were sitting across from Lisa, I might say, Lisa, I'm really sorry to hear that. That really sucks. But don't worry, you'll find another job. You're a great person. You're going to do great things. This is just one job. You'll find a much better job. Okay, so you could say many things. You're probably, if this is your best friend, you're probably going to talk about it for a while. It's probably going to be a longer conversation. Okay, so tell me in the comment section what you think. Good. Alan says, it's not the end of the world. Great phrase there, Alan. I really like that. There's new and much better opportunity to get a better job. You're much better than the job that you didn't hire. So very similar to what I was saying. It's not the end of the world. There's new and much better opportunities to get other jobs. You're much better than the job you didn't hire. So you could say, it's not the end of the world is a great phrase to use. Here's how I would rephrase that, Alan. You'll find a much better opportunity somewhere else, and you're too good for that job anyways. We often use that phrase when we're trying to comfort someone or compliment someone. Sometimes you could say, you're too good for blah, blah, blah. You're too good for that job, you could say. It means that job is down here and you're up here. You're way too good for that. You'll often hear this phrase talked about, again, in relationships too. If two people are dating, and let's say your friend really doesn't like your boyfriend, maybe your friend will say to you, oh, you're too good for him. You're way too good for him. Okay, so Sam says, oh, don't worry. You'll have such other chances in the future. Great job, Sam. You can get rid of such there, and it'll sound even more natural. You'll have other chances in the future. Oh, don't worry. You'll have other chances in the future. Great. Good friend to Lisa. Yes, I believe I used the name Lisa. Yeah. Lisa will be happy with you, Alan and Sam. Ilya says, don't be worried. Try again and again. You will find someone. Okay? Good. You could say, more naturally, you could say, don't worry. Don't worry. Try again and again. You will find something. In this case, we're talking about a job, so it's a thing, we would say. Not someone, try something. You will find something. Great sentences. These are great. Really, you guys seem like you're understanding how to express sympathy. A lot of the time, even if your English isn't perfect, when we're expressing sympathy, what's most important is that we're trying to show that we care about the other person. So as long as that is being communicated, a lot of the time, all of the time, I would say, that's the most important thing. The person just needs comfort. They need to feel like they're not alone, like someone cares about them. That is what expressing sympathy is for, I think, a lot of the time. Okay, so let's keep going. I've got one more for you. One more section that I want to talk about. This lesson is getting longer than I thought. Okay, and this is offering support. Okay, so what do you do? So you can express sympathy, but what do you do if you want to tell the person that you can help them in some way, that you're available if they need help? These are some of my favorite expressions to use. Okay, so I've got a nice big long one here. You could say, if you need someone to talk to, I'm always here for you. Once again, if you need someone to talk to, I'm always here for you. So imagine you're with your friend. Let's stick with Lisa. So not only did Lisa not get this job, let's imagine now that she just broke up with her boyfriend. So her life just sucks right now. It's not going very well. You could say, Lisa, I'm so sorry to hear about everything. If you need someone to talk to, I'm always here for you. So we have a conditional sentence here. If you need someone to talk to, if you feel if you feel like you want to speak with someone, I'm always here for you. I'm always here. That means I'm here to support you. I'm here for you means I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you. So if you need someone to talk, I'm always here for you. You can call me, you can talk to me. I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you. This is a really great phrase. I've used this many different times throughout my life. So yeah, it's a good one to know. And another one, something very similar. I'm always here if you want to talk. I'm always here if you want to talk. Okay? Here is another one. Let me know if you ever need to vent. Now, there are two things that I want to talk about in this sentence. The first, let me know. Let me know basically means contact me. And this is an excellent phrase to know. Really, really important. We use it a lot, okay? Especially in emails, almost all of the time I use the phrase, let me know. Or when we're texting, in speech too, I use this phrase all of the time. And it means contact me, okay? So at the end of an email, or let's say I want to hang out with my friend, I want to meet my friend, I could say, let me know when you're free. So tell me when you're free. Tell me when a good time to meet is. In this situation, let me know if you ever need to vent. What does vent mean? Vent, well, you see on the right here, I have a picture of an air vent. So we call this a vent in English, that picture. And it's basically something that allows air through, air or gas. We use it as a noun in this picture, an air vent. It's a noun. But the verb to vent, it means something quite different, but kind of similar. The concept is similar. So when you vent, to vent means to just talk openly about something. If you feel very strong emotions about something, if you feel a lot of things inside and you need to talk to someone and you want to just say everything that you're feeling, you could say, I need to vent. I want to vent to someone. It's a really great verb that we use quite often in these situations. It really describes that feeling when you want to say everything that you have inside of you, when you have so much inside, so much that you're thinking, but you can't say it, you don't have someone to talk to. I want to vent to someone. Or thanks for letting me vent to you, like that. So let me know if you ever need to vent. Imagine you're talking to Lisa again. And you say, Lisa, let me know, which means contact me if you ever need to vent. So if you have a lot of stuff that you're thinking that's inside of you and you need to get it out, contact me. Let me know if you ever need to vent. Let me know if you need to vent. Okay, let me just check back on the comment section here. Ruslan says, "Don't worry, you will find another job. Find a job in any case because I believe in you and that you rated for better opportunity." Very nice, Ruslan. Here's how I would rephrase that. Don't worry, you'll find a job in any case. Great phrase there. Because I believe in you and that you rated for better opportunity. I'm not exactly sure what you mean there. We wouldn't use the verb rated. You could say you're destined for a better opportunity, maybe. You're destined. Or very simply, you could say you'll find a better opportunity. You will find a better opportunity. Kyung Kim says failure can be another success. I completely agree. Failure can be another success. It can lead to success in the future. There's this great Michael Jordan quote. I wish I had it on me right now. But he's talking about all of the shots that he's missed in his career. He's talking about all of the times that he's failed. And the end of the quote, it says, "And that's why I succeed." So he's saying, I succeed, I'm successful because I fail. So it kind of talks about what you're talking about, something similar. Kyung Kim says, "I will always be at your side, whatever you do." Oh my, Kyung Kim. Quite an emotional statement. I will always be at your side, whatever you do. Great sentence there. Great way to express sympathy. Alan says, "Lisa, you're such a beautiful, sexy girl. I'm sure you will meet a much better man who will erase up all your bad memories you had with your ex-boyfriend." Alan, that's great. I think that's really great. Sometimes, too, especially if your friend is a woman, it's nice to say, you know what? You're sexy as hell. Don't worry about it. You look great. You're going to find another man, no problem. Sometimes that can be really great. So I think that's a funny one. Good job, Alan. And I'm sure they would love that. Okay, let's keep going. I thought we could end with a very quick look at a song here. The song is by Simon and Garfunkel. We're just going to look at the first little verse. And the song is about expressing sympathy, offering support. Simon and Garfunkel, they're a very, very famous duo from the 60s and 70s. I believe 60s. They started in the 60s. Maybe 70s, I'm not entirely sure, but around that time period. And they wrote a song called "Bridge Over Troubled Water." Perhaps you know their song "Mrs. Robinson" or "The Sound of Silence." These are some other famous songs that they wrote. This one is also one of their most famous. So let's look at the first verse quickly. "When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side when times get rough and friends just can't be found. Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down." So let's talk about this. I think that you should be able to understand a lot of it, but let's listen, or let's try and understand it. Weary. The word weary in English is a great word. It means really tired, basically. A great vocabulary word to know. So when you're weary, you're really tired, especially because you haven't slept or because you've worked really hard at something. You're really tired. And there's something sad about it almost. You're really weary. You're just tired. So when you're weary, feeling small, when we're sad, when we're not feeling good, sometimes we feel physically small. And it's actually true that when we're depressed, when we're sad, we walk more like this, more hunched over, we're smaller when we're depressed. When we feel good, when we're confident, we put our chest out, our head is up, so we actually feel small when we're sad. When tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. So you have a nice tissue here. They will dry your tears. I'm on your side. On your side, another great phrase to know. It just means I will support you. If you're on someone's side, it means you support that person. I'm on your side when times get rough. Okay, so rough means not gentle. Rough means many things, but rough means not gentle and calm. It's very rough. So, like for example, when little boys play sometimes at school, they get very rough. They fight with each other. They get very rough. We use this also to talk about times. So rough times means difficult times. Like Lisa, for example, with not getting the job and losing her boyfriend. You could say she's going through rough times. She's experiencing rough times. And friends just can't be found. So you can't find your friends. You feel like you're alone in these rough times. You can't find anyone. Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. So, like a bridge over troubled water, this is what we call a metaphor in English. It's a specific, sorry, 1 second. It's a specific kind of metaphor called a simile. So, a simile is a metaphor that uses the words like or as. So, he's as tall as a mountain, she's as brave as a lion, like that. So that's what we use a metaphor for. It compares two things together for poetic effect. Like a bridge over troubled water. So he's saying, I will be there like a bridge over troubled water. Troubled water is kind of a strange expression, but just imagine a bridge over water, over the difficult, rough times in life. What does a bridge do? A bridge connects two things. A bridge supports you while you walk from one place to another. A bridge supports you. So I will be your bridge over troubled waters. When there's trouble down here, I will be your bridge that you can walk on. I will support you. I will lay me down. To be honest with you, lay me down, you would never say, I will lay me down. I don't think you would ever say that. But you could say, I will lay down. It means I will lie down on the bed, or lie down somewhere, to lie down. But I will lay me down. So again, it's just saying, I will lie down. I will be the bridge over troubled water. I thought that would be a nice way to end it. By the way, the link to this song is in the description of this video. If you want to listen, I'm guessing that some of you might even recognize the song. It's quite popular, quite famous, one of their most famous. That is all that I have for you today. Sam says, I found you're interested in music, so which instruments do you play? I actually play the guitar for you. My guitar is sitting, I play the guitar. I used to play in a band, but I play the guitar. My guitar is right over there. And I do like to sing sometimes too. Actually, in some of my Facebook videos, I include myself playing guitar. So maybe one day on my YouTube videos, I will play a little guitar for you guys. I do talk about music a lot, though. Music is a big part of my life, like it is in many people's lives, I think. So good observation, Sam. And yeah, that is all that I have for you today. Unless you have any other questions, then I think I will get going for the evening. I will have another sip of water, and then I'm going to end this live lesson. That was a lot longer than I expected. These lessons continue, it seems, to get longer and longer. So thank you all for staying with me tonight. And by the way, I see there's 11 of you watching right now. By the way, if you enjoy this, please give me a thumbs up. Share this with someone. Alan says, great way to empathy with someone who is suffering from emotional pain. Yes, so please remember these phrases. I tried to give you the most basic phrases. Basic is the wrong word. The most useful, I guess. What's the word I'm looking for? Phrases that you can use in many different situations. Okay, so some of the phrases when I was researching this topic, a lot of the phrases that I found online, they're quite specific either to the situation or to the relationship that you have with the person you're trying to sympathize with. I tried to give you phrases that you can use very generally in many different situations. So I hope that helps. Thank you all so much for watching. It's been a pleasure, as always, being with you here today. And I wish you the best. I hope that these help you the next time you have to express sympathy for someone. Okay? Thank you all so much. Have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. I will see you another time in the next lesson. Bye-bye.